it's you. Today I'm going to talk about fiscal policy. Fiscal policy is the instrument that the government may use to achieve its macroeconomic objectives. The agenda of this video is we're going to discuss the instruments of the fiscal policy, which are taxes and government expenditure. We're going to discuss how do we use the fiscal policy to tackle government's macroeconomic objectives. And we're going to discuss a principle proposed by Jan Tinbergen, who was the first Nobel Prize winner in economics. This is related to fiscal policy as well. Let's start. What is fiscal policy and what instruments does it have? So, two instruments, taxes and government expenditure. Taxes is some amount of money which the government takes from the individuals, from companies, in order to finance its own expenditure. Common taxes include income tax, taken from the income of individuals, and corporate tax, taken from the profits of firms. You may also know VAT, value-added tax, which taxes almost every good in the UK, and some other excise duties on alcohol, for example. These are all types of taxes. But this video is not about taxes, so I'm not going to touch on kinds of taxes. I'm not going to touch on specific and ad valorem taxes. If you're interested in the specific and ad valorem taxes, please let me know in the commentary section of this video, and I'll make a separate video on them. Okay, this was taxes. Now, government expenditure. This is what the government spends on the country. So, spending on healthcare, on education, on defense, or paying pensions, and so on. This is all government expenditure. So fiscal policy is about government spending, government expenditure, and taxes. How do we use that fiscal policy to achieve government's macroeconomic objectives? Firstly, let's look at the objectives. The common objectives include economic growth, which we kind of discussed in the GDP video. Inflation, which is a rise in prices, so how quickly prices rise. Unemployment, which is how many people are unemployed, don't have a job. And the balance of payments, which I'm not going to touch on in this video. Okay, fiscal policy. Suppose we want to increase economic growth. We want to promote economic growth. We then conduct what we call an expansionary fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy is when we try to stimulate the economy. So, there are two things we can do. We can increase our government expenditure. This will increase our GDP and aggregate demand, as we know from the formulas, and therefore this will stimulate the economy to grow. This will increase economic growth. However, this will also lead to higher inflation. But government expenditure may be positive for unemployment, as the government may spend their finance to create some jobs. And therefore, less people will get unemployed, unemployment rate will decrease. On the other hand, we can decrease taxes, which then means that individuals will have a higher disposable income. Disposable income is when you take your total income and take away the taxes. Okay, two things, either increase government expenditure or decrease taxes. This is what we call expansionary fiscal policy. We expand the economy. Alternatively, suppose the economy is in a boom and the government wants to decrease inflation. Then they conduct what we call a contractionary monetary policy. This is when we contract the economy. So, we can either decrease government expenditure, so we therefore have lower GDP, less is produced, and therefore the economy starts cooling down, inflation decreases. Or we can increase taxes, causing individuals to have lower disposable income, therefore they can spend less, and therefore the economy again cools down as less gets spent, demand decreases, etc. As you know, demand decreases because income decreases, yeah? In this case we talk about disposable income, not the total one. Okay, that's how we use fiscal policy. Now, what's Jan Tinbergen? What did he say? Jan Tinbergen is the first Nobel Prize winner in economics. And what he said was, you can't kill two birds with one stone. You may have heard this expression. I'll now explain what it means in these terms. Okay, so suppose the government has two objectives, say economic growth and inflation. The principle of Jan Timbergen says that you can't use one policy to tackle both. So what he said is that you need to have as many tools as you have objectives. Here, if the government has two conflicting objectives, for example, they need to decrease inflation but promote economic growth, the government needs to cooperate with the central bank and decide that the government uses fiscal policy to tackle one objective and the central bank uses monetary policy, which I'll discuss in the next video, to tackle another objective. So this is what the government should do in this kind of situation. From this video, you learned what is fiscal policy, what are the instruments of fiscal policy, how it can be used to tackle government's macroeconomic objectives, and how the objectives may be conflicting with each other and what the government should then do. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave any commentaries if you have them, and thank you a lot for watching, and I hope